Hi, and welcome to my channel TechneMoira. Today's episode is all about restoring the Sony ICF-5500M portable radio, better known as the Captain 55. So grab your favorite drink or snack, sit back and enjoy. The Sony ICF-5500M, or better known as the Captain 55 portable radio, is a really cute, nice little radio for a restoration project. They are not too expensive, and once you get them to work, they work really well. They also have a few peculiarities that make them a showpiece or maybe a subject, a conversation subject. It has, for example, a timer. It has also the shortwave and a marine band, also an AM and FM, of course. It has loudness. Imagine that, a little radio like that. It has a loudness setting as well. It has a pop-up antenna. Imagine that. So there's a little button here, and when you press it, out pops the antenna. Nifty, isn't it? It has a carrying strap, obviously. You can run it on batteries, or like I am doing right now, it's connected to my power supply. So all in all, it's a nice little radio if you want to start with how to get to grips with restoring vintage equipment and all that. If you restore a little radio like this, it'll satisfy you, and you'll get a lot of pleasure out of it. And the sound of the radio is wicked good. It also is very energy efficient. Even at its loudest, it will only pull something like 70 or 80 milliamps of power, which is incredible. I mean, for such a volume that it can produce, that's fantastic. So there you go. So enough talking. Let's jump right into the restoration. Alright, I think I can release this stripped out screw. I don't know if you guys can see this, but alright, it's in really very bad condition. Yeah, it's completely stripped out. But I am going to use a flat head screwdriver like this, and to unscrew it, and it looks like it's going to succeed. So okay, there you go. So 4 screws in all, quite special screws. Let me show you. Alright, so 4 very long screws. I mean, each screw is, I would say, about 2 inches or 5 centimeters long, and all of them have, well, are supposed to have Phillips heads, right? So there, I unscrewed the back, so now let's see if we can open it up, right? Okay. Alright. Well, that was rather painless. Ooh. Oh dear, it's really, really dirty. let me show you. Okay, so this is the inside of the back. Yeah, it's absolutely dirty, and it has that infamous foam that disintegrates as soon as you touch it, and it looks awful and really dirty. Okay, so that's something I will have to take care of. Then we have the interior of the radio, and yeah, like I was afraid of, it looks really dirty. There are a few wires running over it, but I mean that's nothing exceptional or special. But I need to reach the other side of the print board, the main print board you see here. And for that I will need to do quite a bit more unmounting, I'm afraid, to get inside of it. So let me figure it out first, and once I've got it figured out, I'm going to bring you back and show you the insides. By the way, the serial number of the radio is 25,730. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this, but there. Okay, so that's the serial number of the radio. So give me a moment to figure out how to open up the radio so that I can reach the print board, and we'll take it from there. Alright, I took off the knobs from the side and the front. Okay, and in fact you can take them off by gently pulling on them, and that's all it takes. Okay, but let me stress the fact that you should do it gently, you know, because if you use too much force, you'll break things. And in fact, speaking of which, it's incredibly dirty inside. I put on some gloves, you know, because I'm really a bit disgusted for the moment from the dirt of this radio. And it would seem that somebody broke the ferrite antenna core. You know, you can see it move here, right? So yeah, the ferrite core is broken, and somebody stuffed some paper inside here to keep it in place, and it's so disgustingly dirty. I really feel disgusted by it. So anyway, I should be able, technically speaking, to lift out the whole interior, so the whole electronics side, out of the plastic front, right? So out of the bezel, you could say, of the radio. Oh, and by the way, I released the carrying cord as well from the radio. It's incredibly sticky dirty. Blech. So yeah, technically speaking, I should be able to lift out the radio from the case, but obviously I need to do it in such a way that I'm not breaking anything, right? Alright, I won't lie, I'm maximally grossed out by this radio. It's so incredibly dirty, and And the smell, I mean, I can't describe it to you how, yeah, I can't describe the smell. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. Anyway, I managed to release the knob of the timer, and it was on really well onto the axle. You see there, it's a knurled axle. Let me show you from a close-up. Alright, there. Alright, it's a knurled axle for the timer, and you need to pull on the knob, but from both sides. Okay, so not on just one side, but from both sides. And I had to apply quite a bit of force to release it, but there you go. So technically speaking, I should be able now to lift the radio, I mean the electronics, out of the case of the radio, right? Now see, technically, because I'm not sure, and I really need to do it gently because you don't want to break anything. Okay, so that's the battery holder. Okay. Alright. So the speaker is loose. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, you don't want to use a lot of force, okay, so to release the thing, because I'm fairly certain that the person who broke the antenna tried to release the radio out of the case and applied way too much force to do it. Alright, I succeeded in releasing the radio from the case. Okay, and it turns out that you need to cantilever the radio up. Well, you need to keep the front of the case straight up like this. Then you need to cantilever the whole mechanical part, well, the whole electronics, backwards at the bottom, and then slide it gently, really gently, out of the top of the case. Okay, so you see all the holes here for the buttons and the antenna and all that. So you need to pull back the mechanism gently at an angle like this. I'm exaggerating the angle a bit, but that's how you need to do it. And then gently, by keeping the front of the radio like this, it will eventually drop out as one block out of the case. Okay, and you need to keep a good grip on everything, because otherwise you will drop it all. Okay, so there you go. That's how you unmount the electronics, and I don't doubt putting them back into the case will be a joy. But yeah, well, there we go. The inside of the Sony ICF-5500 with speaker and all. Okay. It's quite compact in build. It's quite intricate the way it's built and all. Looking at it from this side, it all looks rather pristine, except of course for the antenna you see here. Alright, and yeah, the antenna is not too good, and then you have this little block here, or thing here, which broke off I mean, I didn't break it off, but it probably broke off many years ago by the same person who broke the antenna, right? So yeah, we have our job cut out. Alright, I very carefully slid out the ferrite antenna bar out of its holder to try to repair it where it was broken. Obviously, the person who tried to repair this before tried to repair it with some uh, normal glue, I would say, or maybe even hot glue, I don't know. The thing is, I want to repair it using super glue and gluing it as closely as possible as I can to where it actually broke. So I want to make it as straight as possible. Fortunately for me, the coils that were positioned around the bar were not stuck onto it very tightly. So by gently pushing on the bar's end, I managed to slid it out of the coils. So the one coil, the little coil on one end, and the bigger coil on the other end. Okay. So before I continue working on the radio, on the radio's internals, I feel I need to repair the antenna bar, yeah, before I work on anything else, right? So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start by cleaning off the old glue as much as I can, and then see if I can stick it back together with some super glue. Alright, I tried to remove as much as I could of the gunk of the ferrite bar with my surgical knife. I have a very sharp surgical knife, alright, which allows me to scrape off carefully all the dirt which is on the ends, except for the glued ends where the glue has set really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my heat gun to heat up the glue at the ends, and then see if I can scrape it off that way without damaging, obviously, the ferrite bars, right? So I need both my hands to do this. So yeah, let's see if I can do it. Without burning my hands, obviously, because I've set it at about 180 degrees C. I don't know how much that makes in Fahrenheit, but yeah, you know. Alright, let's see if I can remove it. Oh yeah, look at that. The glue softened up completely. So yeah, it looks like maybe I will succeed in releasing most of the glue using some heat. There you go. The glue is almost cured, but just for safety's sake I'm going to wait a couple of minutes more. I mean, I'm not that impatient, and I'll show you the final result. It looks okay, it looks acceptable. So I think the bar will be able to perform its function as it was originally intended, right? Now, there is a small detail which I find a bit peculiar. The bar has markings at either end. I mean, I can't show it to you right now, but, well, maybe on that end. So the end closest to the camera has a red marking at the end. It's barely visible after the cleaning, but it is there. You see the remnants of the red marking. Now on the other side, the bar has a yellow and a white dot. So I can't imagine a ferrite bar to be directional. Of course, with the break in it as it is, maybe it is directional now. But I mean, a ferrite bar basically, you know, has no preferential side. I mean, whether you use it in this direction or you turn it around and use it in the other direction, that really shouldn't make any difference if the bar is one complete piece, which of course now it isn't. I mean, it's repaired, but it's not one homogeneous complete piece anymore. So I don't know. Does this mean that I need to to use it as it was intended to use, or not? Also, I did make pictures of the bar with the coils. So, and the coils, that I do know, that is the position of the coils on the bar does make a difference. So you should place the coils the way they were placed originally, because yeah, that it will make a difference on the alignment of the radio. Okay, the bar is cured, so if you want to see how it looks now, well, this is how it looks. Okay. Alright, obviously to be able to work on the print board, I need to unmount this whole assembly at the front of the radio, right? So, okay, let me pan out a little for you guys. So, to be able to work on the main board, I need to remove this whole assembly you see here. And one of the parts to remove is the little scroll with the tuning dial, right? So see here, yeah, it's a scroll with all the frequencies, etc., inscribed on it. Now there is a small spring behind it to make it roll up automatically, and you need to put a little bit of friction on this little cogwheel here, because otherwise it will just puff wind up completely and quite hard. So how do you remove this? Well, it's set in here like this, okay, and by gently, and I mean really gently, pushing with a small screwdriver on a little tab right here, yeah, and then at the same time lifting this little assembly up, you can release this. Now, don't be afraid if it goes zip, because like I said, there's a spring. There's a spring behind it which rolls up the scroll. Alright, next they want me to remove the VU meter, which of course means I need to cut this paper tape here, which obviously keeps the VU meter in its place. But I mean, that's okay. I can replace this piece of tape with some Captain tape later on. So yeah, I can remove the meter now by pushing gently down here. Don't know if you guys can see this, but yeah, I need to push gently down on here, and then normally speaking I should be able, yeah, there it goes. It pops out, and then I can release it gently like that. Alright, just like that. Okay, this next bit is really touchy, right? So you want to remove this gear assembly too, or at least they want you to remove this gear assembly too. Now, small detail, before you do that, you have to set the tuning either to completely one end or the other end, okay? So then you need to unscrew one screw, just one, on this side here, okay? Right here. It's a Phillips screw like this one here, yeah? But you only need to undo this screw completely. Once you've done that, there's a little hook at the top right here. Let me show you. So right here, okay, where my index finger is, and you need to push on that gently, yeah, with one screwdriver, while wedging a screwdriver in here, okay, right here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but right there behind it, okay? So you push with a screwdriver on the little tab from the top, and you wedge a little screwdriver, a flat one like this one, right behind this, and it should pop out, yeah? Okay, note to self, you do need to release the dial light, which is a small light bulb like here, you know, a green colored light bulb. Okay, and you need to release it from the plastic holder right here, yeah, where I'm holding my finger right there. There's a little cradle, and I released it with the heat gun. Next, you need to unscrew the timer, which is this nifty little thing here. Okay, so you need to unscrew this, and it's held in to the chassis with two screws, two Phillips screws like this. Okay, we're nearly there. So next I have to remove this little board here, you know, and I do that by pushing on a hook, a tab right here next to the antenna, right, with a small flat screwdriver. I need to push on that, and I need to release this switch here too, and that too is done with a small flat screwdriver, pushing down on a little tab, and I think the tab is underneath it, so somewhere there. So normally speaking. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So the whole assembly is loose. Yeah, it's a very long process, but once you're there, you're there. Alright, I had to unsolder and resolder one wire which was stupidly arranged inside the radio, and therefore not allowing me to unmount the whole plastic body to which all the instrumentation is attached, right? So yeah, you can release this by unhooking it at several places behind the main PCB. Okay, there are some plastic hooks hidden here, close to where the tuning capacitor is, but on the other side. So you need to press those two plastic hooks together, and while you're pushing them inward, you press on them, and then that releases part of this. And then there are several plastic hooks all along the side which keep this in place. Okay, so I discovered a nifty little thing of the radio which I hadn't noticed before. That is that the antenna is, normally speaking, is spring loaded. Either way, once you press on the right lever, this happens. You see? The antenna shot out. So I don't know how to action that, but I think it's from somewhere on the top that you can press on something like this and then cock it, maybe like that. I don't know. Let me see. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So the release is from the top somewhere here. I didn't know that. That's a nifty little detail. Okay, anyway, so this whole mess you see here is now the radio totally, completely disassembled. Okay, so I will need to make a few repairs, obviously, because sadly this radio has been really abused, and let me show you what I mean by that. First of all, there's a problem with this view meter, which seems stuck in the maximum position rather than the zero. Now I'm looking at it from all sides. I don't think anybody opened it, so maybe if I gently open it, I can coax the needle back into the zero position, you know, and then maybe even put a tiny drop of grease on the fulcrum of the meter's needle, right? So if of course the meter works at all, we need to measure that. Also, there is a break. So remember this little PCB board here? Well, it turns out it broke off from this board here, right? So this in effect needs to be reattached, I should say, to the end of that board. So that will need, I guess, some gluing and some soldering. Okay, then there's this, and this is a lot more worrisome. So I don't know what happened here, but it sure looks to me like somebody, you know, I don't know, maybe tightened the screws too much on the external antenna leads, or I should say contacts. So yeah, there's something not right with the board here. and more than likely there are some traces broken, okay, below. So I will need to unsolder this contact board here for the external antenna, and then have a closer look at the traces below of the main board, right? So that is seriously broken too. And then of course we have the problem with one of the potentiometers for the tone. Okay, so this is the treble potentiometer, and if you look closely, you know, look at this one and then look at the other one. Do you see any differences? Yeah, this stem here is loose. Look at that. See there? The stem, so this part here, the axle if you prefer, should be attached below or with those little tabs you see over there on the base potentiometer, right? And this one is actually on top of those little tabs. Now I can try to release this and to bend the tabs up and put this back in place. Maybe that will work, but in my experience those tabs you see down there are really very weak. So once you bend them down like they are, you can try to bend them up again, but generally they would break off. And at that stage, you know, the potentiometer is, well, basically a total loss. Alright, I unsoldered the VU and or tuning meter of the radio, and before I'm doing any sort of work on it, I want to check whether it still functions. I mean, if it doesn't function at all anymore for some reason, then there's very little point to spending any sort of effort to revive it, because, well, you know, these meters have very small, very fine mechanics inside, and these are practically, well, not repairable. Yeah, they are so intricate and so fine that it's almost impossible to repair. I've tried in the past, it didn't work out, you know, especially the spool or the rotor for the needle. Yeah, the copper wire on the rotor is so fine, is even finer than a hair, that it's practically impossible to repair. So either you replace the whole internal mechanical, electromechanical part, or you replace the whole meter. Anyway, I want to see whether the meter still shows some conductivity. Okay, so I'm on ohms right now, so let's see. Well, it would seem, yes, there is, and more precisely it's 416 ohms. So there's a good chance that the meter still functions. But our problem is this: when you look at it from the front, okay, you can tell that, let me give you a close-up. Yeah, you can tell the needle is stuck completely towards the 10, you know, so the right side of the dial, and it should be without any sort of voltage on its pins, it should be resting on the 0. Alright, I think I managed to repair the meter somewhat to its original state. But let me tell you, this is not a job for the faint-hearted, okay? So I would advise anyone who wants to work on this to arm yourself with a lot of patience, okay? Because it's really tiny and very fragile. So what did I notice in the end? Well, initially I thought, hang on, let me take something to point with. Okay, so initially I thought that this this meter here is the kind of model where you need to turn the little screw you see there, yeah, to move the needle to, as it were, calibrate the meter and put the needle on 0, right? Now it turns out this model isn't that way. You actually set the needle to 0 with this little lever you see here, right here, okay? And by turning this lever counterclockwise, you can move the needle somewhat. Obviously not the whole distance, but you can move it, let's say, over a few of the gradations, okay? Now there is one caveat here. You see that this lever has on the other side a somewhat shorter lever sticking out, okay? That lever should always stay out of the range indicated by these two white plastic posts you see, okay? So it should never enter the space of these plastic posts. And the reason for that is because it has a somewhat hooked shape, yeah, to which is attached the spring which actions the meter's needle. Now, unfortunately for me, I had to resort to a somewhat quote-unquote dirty trick. I had to reset somewhat the spring, you know. And by resetting it, I mean, if you look at it closely, you see, like I said before, it's an extremely thin copper wire, yeah. And originally, the copper wire, which is a conductor for the rotor of the meter, at least one of the conductors, yeah, is attached or soldered to that little pin right there, right? But it was attached all the way up here. So I had to unsolder it very carefully, not applying a lot of heat, and then resolder it about 10 millimeters further up the spring. Right there. Okay? And by doing that and using the little lever you see here, so this lever here, I managed to move the needle into the 0 position. Alright, the meter of the radio is repaired, at least I think it is. We will only know for sure once we start using it, but I think it'll be okay, it'll work. And I also replaced all the electrolytics of the radio. Alright, and for proof, here are all the old ones I took out of the radio. I haven't counted them, but I would estimate there are about maybe 20 of them, and nearly all of them are bad. One major repair to do, and that is having a closer look at the treble potentiometer you see there, right? So this one, in fact. Okay. And I think the best way to go about it is to simply unsolder the potentiometer such that I can have a closer look at it without having to manipulate the print board all the time. But it's not that easy, unfortunately. The potentiometer is soldered in, not only with its leads at those 3 points you see on the right, but with 4 extra solder points you see on the left. I opted for unsoldering the potentiometer using copper braid. In the end, I thought that would do less damage to the print board as a whole than using very hot soldering irons, which are not so good, excuse me, for which are not as good for this type of print board, right? The traces are very brittle and very sensitive to heat. Well, here it is, the potentiometer, and after unsoldering it, I suddenly realized Sony had somewhat cheated on the quality of its potentiometers. They're hollow. I mean, sure, they do have the resistance at the top of the potentiometer, but they have no bottom. They are simply sold straight to the print board instead of, held down by their thread at the top or something like that, you know. They could have been threaded to something, but no. Apparently, Sony opted for soldering them like this to the print board. I mean, sure, if they work the way they are, then I guess no harm done. But it still vaguely feels a little bit like cheating, doesn't it? Anyway, now I unsoldered it. I'm going to try to repair it, right? So give me a moment, and once I'm done, basically all I need to do is bend these tabs here over and bend them straight, I mean, and then bend them over the top which holds the wiper mechanism. Alright, I unsoldered the little light bulb of the radio. For 2 reasons actually. I am going to replace it by an LED because this is a filament light bulb. So if I leave it in the radio, sure, it will work a while longer still, but at a certain stage the filament will just burn out and it'll be useless. I'm going to replace it by an LED. I haven't decided on the color yet. I am very partial to blue, but in this instance maybe I might choose white, which is a more functional color. Maybe a green LED, I don't know, to stick to the color code of this one. But either way, it still functions, and when I measure it, when I measure its resistance with my multimeter, I measure, I think 12 ohms or something. Let's see. So here we go. 12.2 ohms. Alright, I'm in the process of reassembling the radio, as you can tell. And obviously I started by inserting the black plastic holder, which holds all the separate parts of the radio. I mean, like the button group here, the timer, the VU meter, the display of the channels, or the radio stations I should say, etc, etc. This black piece though has one last dirty little trick. So when you want to reinsert this black plastic onto the main print board, let me show you. So the large plastic holder is kept in place on the main PCB with some plastic hooks. I mean, there's one here, there's one over here, there are a few at the top, and there's one on the other side here as well. But when you want to reinsert the plastic piece onto the PCB, you need to do it in a special way. You actually need to slide in the main PCB at an angle into the black piece here. And if you look at the back of the black plastic holder here, you'll see there are some hooks here, some plastic hooks right here, for example, and at the back of the antenna connector right there. I don't know if you guys can see this, but right there, okay? And there's another hook here. You see there, the black plastic hook? So you need to slide in the PCB at an angle into those hooks first. And then, being very gentle, you need to press the PCB, you need to sandwich, as it were, the PCB and the black plastic holder together until these clips here lock onto the PCB. There are 3 of them. Okay? So that's the trick. But while you're doing that, of course, you need to make sure that there are no wires blocking the plastic piece, and or there are no parts that are obstructing it, etc. So that's why I'm saying that if you do that, you really need to be rather gentle. Now, obviously, the moment will come that you need to mount back the dial scroll. And to do that, you first of all need to turn the tuning shaft, which is this one here, all the way counterclockwise, so in that direction, okay? And don't use excessive force, of course, but once you feel that the shaft can't go further, stop. So what you need to do then is, by hand, you know, the dial scroll cassette will be in your hands, is you will need to turn this little cogwheel here all the way counterclockwise until it shows you that. Okay, it needs to show you the top of the dial face, you could say, or the top of the dial scroll. Alright, now so on the left you see the 88 megahertz for the FM band, and on the right you see the 530 kilohertz for the AM band. Now if you look a little closer to that plastic, that transparent plastic little tab next to the 530, you will see there's a tiny little ridge in the plastic. Alright, so let me show you. I'll point to it. So that little ridge is right here, here, okay, right there. It sticks up a little bit, but it's hard to film, but it is there. Alright, there's a tiny little ridge there, and that is your mark, and you need to align that mark with the mark which is slightly above the 88, so this fat mark here. Okay, so what you need to do is to roll back by hand the whole scroll, you know, and by using this little cogwheel here, and keep a tight grip on it, because the spring behind the scroll is rather powerful. Alright, and then while you keep hold of the little cogwheel, you place the whole cassette into its place, which is, well, where you see it sitting now. Yeah, but it'll be at an angle like this. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but it'll be slightly up like this. So while you still keep your fingers on the cogwheel to stop it from rolling, right, you press down with your other hand the whole cassette into place, gently, until you feel a click, you know. At that stage you can let go of this little cogwheel here, and that will be it. Okay, I'm going to try a first quick test, you know, just to see whether everything functions or not. I hooked up my radio to or the radio to my power supply over there, and I set the voltage to close to 4.5 volts, and I connected it up with a barrel connector. So, you know, a connector like this. Okay, alright, so I connected it up temporarily with a barrel connector, and yeah, I suggest that we have a quick listen to the radio as it is right now. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to linger on any particular station, right?
Omgedoopt. Ja, wordt omgedoopt naar Miloville en staat ondertussen een melige appel op je ruiten. Wat alle, zeg maar, kenmerken zijn van een
Okay, I'm on the FM band, by the way.
Ben je wel eigenlijk een hele gewone jongen gebleven voor de rest? Ja, ik denk dat ik dat ook blijf en ik hoop dat ik het blijf. Ja. Ik denk van wel, ik geloof erin. Moet je eens luisteren naar, of wou je nog iets zeggen? Ja, ik wou gewoon nog, nee, alles go. Ja? Ja. Moeten we eens luisteren? Ja, laten we luisteren naar die track. En dat is Milo op de feed met Lil Kleine. En dat heet Lijntje.
Studio Brussel. Abattoir Anvers.
Ik ben geen junkie, baby, ik ben funky.
So the sound is good, I would say. And I replaced the original green dial light, which was positioned here, with a white LED. Alright. Yeah, I'll give you the specifics in a moment. I just wanted to show you the radio as it is right now. And works fairly good, fairly well. The sound is great. Yeah, so yeah, there you go. The sound is good. So I suggest that we switch on the lights again, and then I'll give you a little bit more explanation of what I did at the very end to get the radio functioning as it is right now. Okay, before I button up the project and I reinstall the finished radio mechanism into its original case, there are a few oddities that I'd like to mention. And one of those oddities is this electrolytic capacitor with 3 leads, not 2. And it is supposed to have 2 capacitors inside, rated for 470 microfarad, 6.3 volts. The the reason why I'm mentioning this is because in over all the years, in all the radios that I have ever restored, and I mean transistor radios and TVs and such, I've never ever seen an electrolytic capacitor of this small size, by the way, with 3 leads, so with 2 capacitors in it, because there's a common ground lead too, of course. Now, yeah, it's an oddity. I've never seen this before. This is really a bizarre part, but it needed to be replaced because I'll show you why. So the reason why I replaced this capacitor is because when I measure both capacitors, they measure almost twice their rated value. Okay, so this is one of them that I'm measuring. Yeah, it's at about 905 microfarad. So mind you, this capacitor was rated for 470 microfarad. And it's quite lossy. Yeah, 3.9%, which is quite high for an electrolytic of this size. And then if I measure the other capacitor in it, okay, so I measure the other side, as it were, this is what I get. I get a capacitor of 897 microfarad, and it's even more lossy. It's 4.7% lossy. It's really, really bad. So yeah, I had to replace this capacitor no matter what. And most of the capacitors that I unmounted and replaced in the radio were just as bad as this one was. Okay, so, or I'd say about a dozen capacitors that I replaced. So yeah, it was definitely necessary. Okay, so the other oddity was the VU meter. Let me show you here. So the tuning and VU meter, this one here, was odd in the sense that originally when I opened it up, it was pointing at level 10, you know, so the complete other side of the meter range. Yeah, and I kept wondering, well, why, you know, and which prompted me to open it up and have a look at the mechanism inside the meter, and it turned out that I needed to, well, not to repair it, but to, let's say, to recalibrate it. Now the meter, once I recalibrated it, seemed to work perfectly, but it was still acting weird. Now there is a blue and a red lead leading to the meter, right? And the color coding blue and red, when you're talking about DC voltages, often means that blue is ground or negative and red is positive voltage, right? And I did connect up the wires the way at least I thought were supposed to be connected to the meter, yeah? So red to the positive lead of the meter and blue to the negative. And the meter really behaved really strange, really badly actually. Until I had a sort of an epiphany and I reversed the leads. So I attached the blue lead to the positive end of the meter and the red to the negative end. And at that point the meter started to behave exactly the way that I would expect it to behave. So that is really weird, and I think unless of course it's some sort of a practical joke, I think they made a mistake at the factory when they assembled the radio. I think they soldered the wires to the wrong spot, so the red colored wire to the negative output and the negative to the positive. I mean, it's not uncommon. Errors like this do happen. But yeah, it had me scratching my head for a little while. One final remark. I know some of you might balk at the fact that I replaced the original light bulb, which is this little green light bulb here, with a white LED. I know some of you might not like it that I did that, but you know, first of all, the white LED gives off a lot more light for the same power consumption, and it will last a lifetime, whereas a filament light bulb like this, the original one, sooner or later will break, yeah, and much faster than an LED. Now, to put your minds to rest on this, I installed the LED in such a way that the installation is reversible, yeah. So anyone at a later stage, if they really want, they can unmount the LED that I mounted and mount back the original light bulb should they wish so, yeah. Now I'm going to include this into by putting it into a little plastic satchel like this, and I'm going to hide it inside the radio where it can't hurt the mechanism, and that way anyone who finds the radio later, yeah, and wants to clean and restore it to its original shape, they can still, like I said, unmount the LED and mount back the original light bulb you see here. Alright, I'm going to switch on the radio and scan the FM band just to give you a taste of the sound quality of the Sony radio. Obviously, I'm not going to linger on any radio station, and at the right of the screen you can also see the current the radio is pulling as I'm tuning and or changing the volume and etc. On average it uses about 60 milliamps, which is really not that much. If you see how loud and if you hear how loud the radio can play, it's really very energy efficient. The sound is actually, well, surprisingly good for a simple little radio like this. Unfortunately, yeah, I wish I could make you listen to the AM band, but first of all, where I live, there are very, very few AM stations left at all, except maybe some very distant UK or Ireland or Spanish radio stations, and maybe even a few Eastern European ones, but at this time of the evening, no way I can receive them. So I'm not going to scan the AM band, okay? But, I mean, let's see what it does on the FM band, right? So here we go. Okay, and we'll start at just a little below 88 megahertz. Okay.
If I had it my way, I'd be watching your eyes turn from brown.
Dat dit misschien wel de overwinning voor het Europese voetbal zou kunnen zijn. Ze zijn er natuurlijk nog lang niet.
Date Night. Dus op date met Peter van de Veire. De eerste liefde.
De eerste liefde.
Wat brengt dat bij u naar boven? Zo de eerste vlinders, de eerste kriebels?
Dat waren allemaal meisjes, dat wel. En ik was...
Naar de Vlaming.
Something I'm kind of like, right, what can I say about it? Something that's very...
Nee, die komt er niet voorbij. En er wordt voor een overtreding gefloten. Dat vinden ze hier niet oké. Er komt nog een wissel aan. Ook nog aan...
Met je ex of wat vond je daar?
Et je suis allée me coucher. Je m'étais pas éloignée de 10 mètres que j'entendais papa dire à maman « Michel est choqué ». Attention, ça c'est leur truc. Quand je fais ou dis quelque chose...
Every time I'm with you, baby, I can't believe it's true. See it in my eyes, I can feel it in your touch.
Heus naar staan.
Wat dan snap ik dat wel dat dat een goede reden is om het misschien uit te maken. Ja. Hoe is het met jouw partner nu, Jannes?
Goed, we praten open over seks en we kijken ook samen gewoon normale porno, echte porno. Want het ding is ook, ja, je hebt dan natuurlijk daar ook rangschikken in en meestal kijken wij gewoon echt natuurlijke, een beetje amateur ook, want het moet niet zijn dat...
Die show is in het OHK en het OHK is deel van mijn opvoeding qua hardcore punk muziek. Vanuit...
Weg 3685 of www.pad.be.
Eigenlijk triest.
Maar natuurlijk.
sound quality is great. I mean, for such a almost, you could say, a toy-sized radio, yes, it's excellent sound. Have to say it's surprising to me. I mean, when I see the interior of the radio and that sort of sloppy feeling I get when I see the electronics inside, well, I have to say, at least where the FM is concerned, this radio has incredibly good sound. Have to say it's surprising to me. I mean, when I see the interior of the radio and that sort of sloppy feeling I get when I see the electronics inside, well, I have to say, at least where the FM is concerned, this radio has incredibly good sound, yeah, and it has a wicked AFC too, you know. So if a radio station sounds a little bit wobbly and not too, you can't receive it too well, or you can't tune in too well, well, just switch on the AFC and it will pull in the radio just like that. So yeah, it's let's say overall I'm not too disappointed with this radio. Obviously, originally I had bought it for the FM and the shortwave and the marine band as well, because I was curious to see what's being transmitted on those bands. But frankly, there's not much going on anymore on the shortwave nor on the marine band, at least as far as I can tell. And with this little radio anyway, no way. I think I can tune in to miles and miles away, although it does have a DX stand for or position for this switch here. So technically speaking, I could do some DXing with this radio, but like I said, I'm a little bit skeptical where that is concerned. Now, either way, the FM sound is crazy good. Mono, of course, but it's really great. And yeah, if you're curious about the lighting of the display, yeah, let me show you in the dark. So this is how the display now shows up with the LED upgrade. Right? So it looks like blindingly, glaringly strong, but in person it's really not. It's rather muted. Okay, but yeah, it's as clear as day, I could say. Yeah. So yeah, the radio, all in all, works well. I'm glad that it looks way better than it used to when I received it, right? So now, you know, after cleaning it and repairing it and all that, it really looks the part, right? Sure, it doesn't look brand new anymore, but it really looks the part. It's clean and usable. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed watching me restoring this Sony ICF-5500M portable radio, better known as the Captain 55. radio of Sony. And I hope I will be able to welcome you on my channel for another episode rather soon. I might take a little break the coming weeks, but I'll be back for sure by, let's say, the end of May. Okay, so there you go. Enjoy, and I'll see you all very soon. Thanks for watching.